Have you ever looked back and realized that the most important lessons weren't taught in school, in your home, or even during your brightest moments, but were whispered to you during your darkest hours, long after the damage was done? Life, in its most brutal honesty, doesn't teach through warning, it teaches through wounds, and by the time people understand what the world truly is, it's often too late to redo their youth, too late to protect their heart, too late to regain the power they unknowingly gave away. There are truths that hit like thunder only when silence has already stolen the years you can't get back. The first hard truth is this: life is not about being good. It's about being seen as valuable. You could be the kindest, most talented, most hardworking person in the room, but if you don't control your image, if you don't shape the narrative about who you are, someone else will. And they'll twist it. People learn too late that reputation outweighs intention, that being useful is more powerful than being nice, that the world doesn't reward purity, it rewards perception, and those who master perception shape reality itself. They walk through doors others didn't even know existed. Second, most people give their loyalty, their trust, and their love like it's an open flame in a cold world, but they forget that fire in the wrong hands burns. Attachment is a beautiful lie. It feels warm, safe, and right, until it becomes the very reason you're manipulated, betrayed, or left hollow. People learn too late that the heart, unguarded, becomes a weapon others use. They don't see that those who love without wisdom often suffer in silence, that boundaries are not walls, they're shields, and if you don't choose who has access to your peace, chaos will walk in with a smile and stay until your soul is numb. Third, and perhaps most tragically, people confuse being good with being safe. They believe that being kind will protect them from cruelty, that being humble will exempt them from exploitation. But the truth is, in a world governed by silent power structures, weakness is an invitation. Not to love, but to prey. The predators of the world don't look for enemies, they look for openings. They wait for the moment you hesitate, apologize too often, or place your happiness in someone else's hands. They move when you stay still, and by the time you realize it, your silence has become their script. As life progresses, another painful revelation unfolds. Most people do not care about the truth, they care about comfort. And if your honesty threatens their illusion, you become the villain. The one who told the truth gets punished more than the one who lived a lie. People cling to comfort, even if it's killing them slowly. They choose flattery over growth, and by the time they realize that comfort has cost them their power, they're already trapped inside a life they didn't consciously design. Regret at that point is not just emotional, it's existential. Another lesson comes when time begins to speak louder than dreams. You will be punished more for your silence than your mistakes. Most people stay quiet when they should speak, tolerate when they should confront, endure when they should walk away. They call it patience, but often it's fear wearing a mask. People learn too late that silence is not neutral. It's a choice, and in that choice they teach others how to treat them. What you don't say echoes louder in your life than what you do. And by the time they find their voice, the world has already labeled them invisible. There's also the bitter truth that those closest to you will resist your growth the most, because your evolution reflects their stagnation. People think enemies slow you down, but it's often friends and family who place the heaviest chains on your ambition, masked as concern, as comfort, as love, and when you try to break free, they make you feel guilty, as if your success is betrayal. People learn too late that not everyone can follow you to higher ground, and letting go isn't cruelty, it's survival. But the hardest lesson, the one that sinks in only when time has etched its truth into your bones, is this: your life is either your greatest weapon or your quiet surrender. You will either shape it with intention or allow others to shape it for you. You will either build your path with blood, sweat, and brutal clarity, or be led down a road paved by someone else's agenda, someone else's comfort, someone else's narrative. You must become strategic with your energy. Stop fighting battles that don't return your investment. Stop trying to convince people who benefit from misunderstanding you. The world doesn't care how much potential you had if you didn't learn how to wield it. Power is not about loudness, it's about precision. Influence comes from discipline, not emotion, and presence, Presence is built by mastering your absence. Make them feel it when you're gone, not just when you're there. And in this dark, often twisted game of life, realize this: people don't fear your kindness, your heart, or your humility. They fear your independence, because once you stop needing their validation, their acceptance, their approval, you become untouchable. You stop apologizing for existing. You stop shrinking for spaces that were never meant to contain your depth. You stop giving explanations to those who are committed to misunderstanding your fire. So become dangerous, not by harm, but by mastery. Master your emotions so they can't be used against you. Master your time so it's not wasted on spectators. Master your purpose so you don't chase applause when you're built for silence that changes the room. Most people only begin to value these truths when they've lost years trying to be everything to everyone, except themselves. The clock never stops and the world doesn't pause for healing, but you, if you choose, can live ahead of the lesson. You can learn now what most people only learn too late. That control isn't taken, it's surrendered. That love isn't lost, it's misdirected. That power isn't given, it's remembered. And the moment you stop waiting for permission to become who you already are, that's the moment life stops happening to you and starts moving through you. Most people enter life with a naive belief that sincerity, honesty, and hard work are enough to secure their place in the world. They imagine that if they live with integrity and treat others well, the world will reward them fairly, but this hopeful illusion shatters with experience. The truth is far harsher. The world does not reward purity or kindness simply because they are virtues. Instead, it rewards perception, the carefully crafted image you project, the narrative others accept about who you are, and the influence you wield. In this sense, life is not a contest of merit but a battle of appearances. Those who learn this lesson late discover that the fabric of society is woven not just from truth, but from stories, power plays, and the ability to control how others see you. To understand this fully, one must grasp that perception is reality in the social world. When people evaluate you, they rarely judge based on your actual intentions or inner character. They judge based on the signals you send, the way you carry yourself, the consistency of your actions, the reputation you build, and even the alliances you form. These signals are the currency of social power, often more influential than the facts behind them. A person seen as confident, competent, and valuable gains doors of opportunity that remain shut to the humble and earnest who fail to manage their image. This is not a cynical rejection of virtue, but an acknowledgement of how human psychology and social dynamics operate. People respond to the world they perceive, not the world as it truly is beneath the surface. This dynamic reveals why many waste their early years chasing ideals without strategy. They assume that merit will speak for itself, that the truth of their talent or character will shine through without effort. Yet, time and again, the opposite proves true. Those who grasp the importance of shaping their narrative advance more rapidly and gain greater influence. They understand that reputation must be cultivated as a form of armor and leverage. They learn to highlight strengths, manage weaknesses, and when necessary, control information to maintain an advantage. This skill is not about deceit, but about strategic presentation, knowing what to reveal, what to conceal, and when to act decisively to reinforce a favorable image. Perception does not only influence external opportunities, but also how others treat you on a daily basis. A leader perceived as decisive will command respect and loyalty. An employee seen as reliable will be trusted with responsibility. A partner viewed as confident and self-assured will inspire attraction and admiration. In contrast, someone who neglects their image risks being dismissed, overlooked, or taken advantage of regardless of their actual abilities. The world's indifference to inner truth becomes a relentless test. Without deliberate effort to manage how you are seen, others will define your identity for you, often inaccurately, sometimes maliciously. This does not mean surrendering authenticity. Rather, it requires recognizing that authenticity alone is not enough in a competitive world. Authenticity must be paired with wisdom about social perception. One must learn the art of impression management, not as a mask to hide behind, but as a tool to ensure that one's genuine value is visible and acknowledged. It is about becoming the author of your own story, rather than a passive character in someone else's script. This lesson, painfully learned too late by many, distinguishes those who command their destiny from those who drift under the weight of misunderstandings and misjudgments. The harsh truth is that the world is indifferent to your purity or your intentions. It responds to the image you cultivate and the narrative you control. Success, influence, and even survival hinge on this ability to manage perception. People who discover this early wield a quiet power, moving through life with greater ease and agency. Those who discover it late face the bitter reality that good intentions, no matter how pure, often go unnoticed or unvalued without the necessary strategy to translate them into social currency. Recognizing this is not a surrender to cynicism, but an essential awakening to the mechanics of human interaction and social survival. It is a lesson that, once learned, forever changes the way you navigate the world. Attachment is often mistaken for strength, but in reality, it is one of the most beautiful and subtle weapons used against us. From the moment we open ourselves to love, friendship, or even ambition, we create vulnerabilities that others can exploit. People tend to believe that their emotions are their own, private, sacred, inviolable. Yet, emotions are inherently porous. They leak into our actions, our decisions, and ultimately into the hands of those around us. The more deeply we become attached, the more control we unconsciously surrender. This is a truth few fully grasp until they have experienced betrayal, loss, or manipulation so profound that it reshapes their understanding of trust and safety. Attachment is a double-edged sword. On one side, it offers warmth, connection, and purpose. On the other, it opens a gateway through which regret, manipulation, and pain enter. People rarely realize that the heart, when left unguarded, becomes a weapon not only against themselves but in the hands of others. Those who master the art of influence know this well. They do not need to break you by force. Instead, they work within your attachments, using your love, loyalty, and hopes to bend your will without breaking your spirit visibly. This form of control is far more insidious because it hides behind the language of care, devotion, and shared dreams. The very things you hold most dear become the chains that bind you. Many learn this lesson too late. They give themselves fully to relationships, friendships, or causes, believing that love or loyalty will protect them. They lower their guard, trusting implicitly until the moment comes when that trust is weaponized. Manipulation doesn't always come in the form of obvious betrayal. It can be subtler: gaslighting, neglect, silent treatment, or emotional blackmail. All of these tactics work precisely because the victim's attachment blinds them to the strategic use of their emotions. When the heart leads without wisdom, the mind becomes vulnerable to deception, and the line between genuine affection and exploitation blurs dangerously. Boundaries, often misunderstood as coldness or selfishness, are in fact the greatest gift one can give to oneself to protect against this. Setting boundaries does not mean shutting others out. It means choosing who has access to your inner world, your time, and your energy. Without these invisible walls, attachment grows unchecked, creating opportunities for others to manipulate the very feelings that once brought joy. People learn this lesson not because they want to, but because life forces them, through heartbreak, loss, or painful reflection, to reconsider how much of themselves they give away and to whom. In this reconsideration lies the foundation of self-preservation. The paradox of attachment is that it is necessary yet dangerous. Human beings are wired for connection. Isolation breeds despair and weakness, but attachment without discernment invites chaos. The moment you allow your happiness, your self-worth, or your peace to depend on another's behavior, you place your fate outside your control. This vulnerability becomes a fertile ground for regret, as you realize how much you gave without reciprocity, how much you endured to maintain illusions, and how deeply your own identity became entangled with others' approval or presence. This is why so many people suffer silently, confused about why their love or loyalty is met with betrayal or neglect. Understanding attachment's true nature requires a shift in perspective. It is not about shutting down emotion or becoming cynical about relationships. Rather, it is about mastering the ability to love wisely, knowing when to invest fully and when to hold back. It is about recognizing that not every bond is meant to last forever, and that detachment is not rejection but protection. People who learn this early develop an inner fortress, allowing them to engage with the world passionately, but without losing themselves. They become harder to manipulate because their emotions are not freely accessible. They are guarded by awareness, experience, and clear boundaries. Attachment is the battleground where power and vulnerability collide. Those who fail to see this become prisoners of their own hearts, unknowingly surrendering agency to those who recognize this dynamic. But those who understand the game transform attachment from a weakness into a source of strength. They love fiercely but wisely, protect their inner world fiercely but openly, and accept that the greatest loyalty must always be to oneself. This realization does not come without pain, but it brings freedom. The freedom to connect without losing control, to give without sacrificing self, and to navigate the world without becoming a victim to the beautiful trap of attachment. There is a pervasive misconception that power corrupts, and that those who seek strength inevitably become ruthless or cruel. Yet, the more profound truth lies not in power itself, but in weakness. Power, in its purest form, is neutral. It is the ability to influence outcomes, to protect oneself, and to shape one's environment. What truly invites harm and exploitation is weakness, especially when it reveals itself as unguarded vulnerability, lack of boundaries, or inconsistency in one's actions and reactions. People often learn this painful truth too late, discovering that the world does not protect the kind or the good. It exploits the weak and the uncertain without hesitation. Weakness is not just a physical or external condition. It is an internal state that others instinctively detect and target. When you show consistent vulnerability without self-control, you become a beacon for those who thrive on taking advantage of others. This is why strength is less about domination and more about quiet control. Control over your emotions, your impulses, and your presence. Strength is about mastering the way you respond to challenges, refusing to give others the power to unsettle you through fear, anger, or desperation. It is the calm within the storm that commands respect far more effectively than any loud display of force. One of the most damaging manifestations of weakness is the failure to set clear boundaries. Boundaries act as invisible lines that protect your mental and emotional space. Without them, people, whether consciously or unconsciously, cross into your territory, exploiting your time, energy, and goodwill. It is not uncommon for well-meaning individuals to mistake boundary setting for selfishness or rigidity, but in reality, boundaries are essential for self-preservation. They define where your responsibility ends and where others must take accountability. Without these limits, you become a playground for manipulation, where others shape your reality to suit their agendas. Another subtle but dangerous form of weakness is the tendency to apologize excessively or seek constant approval. Apologies, when genuine and necessary, can mend relationships and show humility. But when overused as a habit, they signal insecurity and lack of control. People who constantly seek approval reveal their dependence on others for validation, which weakens their position in both personal and professional spheres. The world rewards those who hold their ground quietly, who express their worth through action rather than words, and who do not bend their identity to fit others' expectations. This does not mean arrogance, but a deep-rooted confidence that does not need external reinforcement. Emotional volatility is a hallmark of weakness that predators and manipulators exploit ruthlessly. When reactions are unpredictable, intense, or unrestrained, others learn to use these emotional triggers as levers to control behavior. Strength manifests as emotional intelligence, the capacity to recognize, understand, and regulate emotions rather than being ruled by them. This mastery over one's inner state makes a person less vulnerable to manipulation and increases their ability to influence situations effectively. It creates an aura of stability that others instinctively respect or fear, precisely because it signals control rather than chaos. Strength also requires embracing discomfort and adversity without succumbing to despair or defeat. The world does not offer protection from hardship, but it respects those who endure with resilience and grace. Weakness often reveals itself in avoidance, denial, or self-pity, reactions that not only harm the individual but invite further exploitation. Resilience, on the other hand, builds an invisible armor that deflects attacks and absorbs shocks. It transforms pain into a source of growth and empowers individuals to reclaim agency over their lives. People who understand this cultivate habits and mindsets that reinforce their inner strength, making it difficult for others to break them down. The most powerful people are those who maintain sovereignty over their own lives without seeking to dominate others. True strength is measured not by how much control you exert externally, but by how much control you maintain internally. It is a steady presence, a calm confidence, and an unwavering commitment to personal integrity. This kind of strength does not need to prove itself through aggression or loud declarations. Instead, it commands influence through deliberate action, thoughtful silence, and the strategic use of power when necessary. It is a mastery of self that protects against the predators waiting for any sign of weakness. In the end, weakness invites predators more surely than power invites corruption. The moment you reveal inconsistency, uncertainty, or a lack of boundaries, you become a target for those who seek advantage. Recognizing this truth is crucial for anyone who desires not only to survive, but to thrive in a world that is often indifferent to kindness or fairness. Strength is not about dominating others, but about mastering yourself, your emotions, your presence, and your responses. It is the quiet power that cannot be stolen because it is grounded within you. Those who learn this lesson early find themselves navigating life with greater freedom, respect, and control, while those who learn it late often pay a heavy price.